Why be ordinary when you can be flamboyant? Wancheka Radio. Be flamboyant.
Good evening, and here are the major stories for today. The national leadership of the People's Democratic Party has rejected Saturday's governorship election in Ekiti State, describing the result announced by the Independent National Electoral Commission as a daylight robbery. National Publicity Secretary of the PDP, Kola Ologbodinyo, stated this at a press briefing in Abuja this Sunday. The Independent National Electoral Commission had earlier today declared the candidate of the All Progressives Congress, APC, Kayode Fayemi, as the winner of the election after polling 197,559 votes to defeat his closest candidate, Kolakbo Olushola Eleka of the People's Democratic Party, who had 178,121 votes. Meanwhile, the federal government says the victory of the All Progressives Congress in the just concluded Ekiti governorship election is a verdict on the performance of President Muhammadu Buhari's administration. Minister of Information and Culture Lai Mohammed told a media briefing in Lagos this Sunday that the election was a referendum and Nigerians have given their verdict. The minister also took a swipe at conveyors of fake news, saying, and I quote, "The election is not just a defeat for the PDP, it's a defeat for all naysayers who have made themselves the spokespersons for Nigerians," end of quote. In other reactions, Rivers State Governor Nyesom Wike has described the Ekiti State election as the worst political robbery in Nigeria's democratic history. Wike, who spoke during a church Thanksgiving in Port Harcourt to mark the end of the third-year anniversary celebration of his administration this Sunday, bragged that the All Progressives Congress would have no room to reenact the alleged Ekiti political robbery in Rivers State. The police in Taraba State says it has arrested 4 persons in connection with the recent killings in Lao local government area of that state. Public Relations Officer of the command, David Misal, who made the disclosure in a statement released to newsmen on Saturday, confirmed the killing of 17 persons in the attack and several houses burnt by the bandits. Misal also described as untrue some media reports which put the casualty figure at 42 and 73. He explained that 15 patrol teams comprising 100 personnel and another 50 mobile police force operatives have been mobilized to the troubled zone to restore peace and normalcy. And the United Nations for Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs says an estimated 3 million displaced persons face critical food and nutrition insecurity in the Northeast. The agency in its humanitarian situation report for the month of June said no fewer than 1.7 million persons were displaced by conflicts in the region over the past 9 years. It further said humanitarian actors and partners were carrying out a retargeting exercise in Borno and Yobe states to ensure that the most vulnerable people receive food assistance. In international news, the 12 young footballers who were saved from a Thai cave after an international rescue effort are mourning a former Navy SEAL who died in the operation. Volunteer diver Semen Conan lost his life on July 6 while installing oxygen tanks in the flooded cave complex. He has since been hailed as a hero around the world. The boys and their 25-year-old coach were told of his sacrifice only on Saturday when doctors decided they were strong enough to process the news. Permanent Secretary of that country's health ministry, Jetsada Chokdam Rongsong, told newsmen that the boys all cried and expressed their condolences by writing messages on a drawing of the lieutenant commander and observed 1 minute of silence for him. They also thanked him and promised to be good boys. And US President Donald Trump has described the European Union as a foe on trade. Speaking to CBS News, President Trump accused European countries of taking advantage of the United States and not paying their NATO bills. But EU Council President Donald Tusk says anyone calling the EU foes was spreading, quote, fake news. Ahead of Monday's meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin, Trump says he had low expectations after 12 Russians were indicted for alleged hacking during the 2016 US elections. He, however, hopes to raise the issue with Mr. Putin at the summit in the Finnish capital, Helsinki, with some good coming out of it. In business, President Muhammadu Buhari has promised that all parts of the country would benefit from projects to sustain its fairness and equality policy. Minister of State for Budget and National Planning Zainab Ahmed, who represented the president, made the promise at the Alex Ekweme Federal University in Ebonyi State, while inaugurating ecological projects in that institution. Buhari noted that the projects were executed by the Ecological Fund Office and the Office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, and that the inauguration was a confirmation that no part of the country would suffer neglect owing to geographical location or political consideration. In entertainment, producers of TV series Downton Abbey have finally confirmed production after much speculation. The period TV drama, which was a hit around the world, ended in December 2015 after 6 series, but the film's producers say the original principal cast will begin production later this summer. The show's creator, Julian Fellows, has written the film's screenplay and he's going to co-produce as well. Brian Percival, who directed The Book Thief, About a Girl, and the Downton Abbey pilot, would direct the film. The series, which had an ensemble cast led by Hugh Bonneville and Dame Madge Smith, followed the many ups and downs of the Crawley family and their servants, who lived together in an Edwardian English country home at the turn of the 20th century. In sports, France has won the FIFA World Cup for the second time by 4-2 after overcoming Croatia's bold challenge in a pulsating final in Moscow's Luzhniki Stadium. Didier Deschamps' side repeated the success on home soil at France 98 by a margin that hardly looked possible as Croatia stood toe-to-toe with the favourites for an hour. France's victory meant Deschamps, who captained the team 20 years ago, became just the third man to win the competition as a player and coach. And in tennis, Novak Djokovic earned his first Grand Slam title in more than 2 years by beating Kevin Anderson to win his 4th Wimbledon championship. Djokovic seeded 12th, won 6-2, 6-2, 7-6 to claim a 13th slam, his first major since the 2016 French Open. The 31-year-old Serbian is now in outright 4th place on the all-time list of Grand Slam men's singles titles, moving clear of Roy Emerson and closing the gap on Roger Federer, who has 20, Rafael Nadal with 17 and Pete Sampras with 14. The former world number 1 will move back to the top 10 when the latest rankings are released on Monday. Those are the major stories for today. I am Binta, Bhadmus.
Why be ordinary when you can be flamboyant? One Checker Radio. Be flamboyant.